Congressman Adam Kinzinger, taking time out of his very, very busy day, as I can tell. Congressman, good morning to you.
Hey, good morning. It's good to be with you today.
How's everything going this morning?
It's good. You know, here in D.C., it's going to be like, 50-something and sunny, so I'll take it today.
I don't blame you. That just really, that sounds like spring break weather at this point.
Yeah, except, I'm coming back this weekend, and you're talking about cold, so I'm not cool with that.
Yeah, bring a jacket. You'll be glad you did. I was looking at your Twitter feed. I love this. Quick look at 2016, hit the ground running in 2017. 564 constituent cases closed, 166 tours of the Capitol, and nearly 19,000 pieces of correspondence answered. That's a pretty full year.
Yeah, and, that's a shout-out to my staff. I mean, look, we have some great men and women that work out here and in the district and work to be accessible. There's like a bunch of pillars of what I do. Voting obviously is one of them, and this kind of stuff. But one of the most important things is constituent service, and that's people that maybe have an issue with Social Security, veterans benefits, things like that. And I have staff that's able to take care of that, and even things like give people a tour of the Capitol when they come. So it's awesome. Great staff, and they do their best to make me look good, which I appreciate.
They are. They're terrific people. I love Maura. So
yeah, she's awesome.
So you please pass along my compliments to her. She is a joy to deal with each and every time that we do.
I will, but I don't want to make her feel too, happy, or else she'll try to go find a better job because she'll think she's all that.
Or hit you up for more, one of the two.
That's right.
Yeah, it works out badly either way. All right, so you're in Washington, which is really the center of excitement and trolling and fake news and God knows what else is going on. Give us a feel of what does it feel like being in Washington this week?
I'll tell you, it's. I mean, if you're a Republican, it's a bunch of optimism. We're kind of, all thumbs a little bit in terms of trying to find, what's the best way to repeal and replace Obamacare. Some of the challenges we face, we can repeal it with 51 votes in the Senate, but to replace it, we need 60 votes, and it's because of the procedure called budget reconciliation. So, we're going to go through some iterations of, what's the best way to do that? How do we actually get the 60 votes and get it done? There's going to be tax reform on the agenda and some big, really heady issues. But we are very optimistic. I mean, I'm sitting here in the car right now on my way to work, looking around at these big, huge buildings, and I mean, a lot of these folks, they're probably good Americans. They're going to be replaced with people that are right leaning, that understand, that business and individuals can make their own life way better than the government can do. And so there's a lot of optimism. If you're on the left out in Washington, D.C., it's like the impending apocalypse in your mind.
Everybody's Meryl Streep is what you're saying then?
Yeah, I'll tell you, the Meryl Streep thing, I was blown away at the arrogance. I mean, it's one thing, I think she has a legitimate point only in saying, he was making fun of a disabled reporter, which I think is wrong and bad and everything. But then to turn that into, gosh, you need Hollywood, otherwise you're left with your football and MMA fighting. I'm like, I happen to really like football and MMA fights.
Me too.
And so does a lot of America. It's crazy.
Well, and, I guess the thing that has bothered me the most is the constant refrain of how brave that was. When you think about how brave it is to stand up in front of a room and deliver the only politically acceptable opinion in that room, it isn't really that brave.
Not at all. Not at all. You know what bravery is Peter Berg, I think, with doing the movie Patriots Day and some of his other movies he's done that really reaches out to, like the 16th District of Illinois, the salt of the earth people that, have pride in their country, have pride in their police and everything else. That's courage. It doesn't take courage to stand up and say, I'm a left-wing elitist, lefty.
Yeah, and if it weren't for us, you people would be stuck with football and fighting. So
yeah, that'd be fine with me.
I would be okay. Work a basketball game in from time to time, and I'm good. I'm good.
You touch a baseball.
I was talking to Congressman Randy Hultgren earlier in the morning, and we pointed out, or we got talking about the new report out about how consumer confidence, and in particular small business confidence and optimism, has swelled to it hasn't been where it is now since 1980.
Yeah, I mean, look, it's, the economy, the most interesting thing about the economy, and most people get this, and it's something that I've really come to grips with, is the economy is really just an idea, right? It's just, how confident people feel in their desire, their ability to trade goods and to to pass money on for different. I mean, it's just this complicated human interaction. When people feel unconfident in general about the economy, they're not going to go out and buy things. They're not going to invest. And when they feel confident, they're going to do the opposite. They're going to go out and invest and buy things. And I think just by Trump's election, I think just by, middle America speaking out with a roar and saying we're tired of the status quo, we want to drain the swamp, we want to do something new, that's given people this amazing burst of confidence. And I'm excited. It's going to help balance the budget when the economy grows. It's going to give us an opportunity to rebuild our military. And it's going to get good people back to work at jobs that have an increasing wage.
I know that you had your differences with the president-elect, but I think you're on board with him as far as the rebuild of the military that he has talked about extensively. I would imagine about taxes and the way he's looking at the economy.
Yeah, absolutely. Look, as I've said, my job, I will support the president in every way that I can, and I will oppose him when I must. And if there's issues that I strongly disagree or that's not good for the district, I will oppose them. And, one of the areas I've been outspoken on is Russia and the need to recognize them as a strategic threat. But I'm excited about our huge opportunities with the president-elect. I mean, from a pro-business perspective, from a, rein in the EPA and allow our farmers to farm and feed the world, from that kind of stuff, unleashing the prowess of American energy, which the 16th District is a leader in American energy. I'm really stoked for the new administration. I think it's going to be a good and exciting time.
What about on the foreign policy area? Because I know that's an area of expertise for you.
Well, it's a concern. I think President-elect Trump will be very good in terms of fighting ISIS and destroying terrorism. My concern is in, again, the recognition of Russia. I think, it's pie in the sky. I was on your show probably a year ago and 100 times since, ripping on the current administration for their reset with Russia. Well, some of the things I've heard from Trump actually make a reset look pretty mild in comparison. So I'm excited about what he can do in foreign policy, reclaiming America's role in the world. I think he's very capable of doing that. I just hope when he gets into office, he sees that Russia is, in fact, I think, playing him. And I think, totally not a friend of the United States, nor really can be.
And, I kind of look at a lot of countries around the world who purport to be friendly, but maybe necessarily aren't. But, you can't escape the irony of the quote still floats up in front of my eyes when I think about this was the 80s called, they want their foreign policy back, and this poo-pooing of a Russian problem. And now the administration can't spew out enough about the Russian problem.
It's amazing. Who knew that so many Democrats were Russia hawks all of a sudden? And, this is where they're discrediting their case is, whether it's the election hacking, whether it's Russia, you have all these lefties that used to be like kind of peace hippies times 12 on this stuff are now these people that are aghast at the Russian influence. It's like, where were you when the Russians were invading Ukraine? Where were you when they were invading Georgia? Where were you when they had their foray into Syria? Now, all of a sudden, the only reason you're upset at the Russians is because you believe they made Trump president, which they didn't. The American people made him president.
Yeah, and that's, and of course, you've got a news media who's really not all that interested in calling out the dichotomy here.
Yeah, you think?
Well, maybe they are, but they're just really, they're tamping down the desire to call this out as much as they can.
Yeah, I mean, look, news is news, and, and I think, when it's news, report it. But, again, it is amazing to me when you look at some of these news agencies and stuff that, they are now ringing the bell on this terrible, quote-unquote, Russia threat. And I agree that it's a big threat. But, a year ago when President Obama was saying we can work with the Russians in all these different areas, it wasn't the same tune.
Let me ask you one other thing, based upon something you had you tweeted out. I found intriguing. You wrote, "Much has changed since I visited Syria in 2014, but one thing remains: it's not too late to act for a free Syria."
Yeah, it's getting late.
It seems late.
It is, and look, the biggest failure we had was the failure to enforce the red line that changed American foreign policy forever. I mean, at least under this administration. And that was the red line with the use of chemical weapons. I think the options are becoming less and less, but I think you have to have a humanitarian fix, whether it's a no-fly zone, humanitarian zones, because here's the bigger thing. It's not just the tragedy in Syria. There's 50,000 dead children. That's very tragic. But it's also the culture clash this is creating with Europe. I mean, the mass migration to Europe is as a result of Syria. That's led to these massive culture clashes. It's led to ISIS there. And I fear that Syria is spreading to, Lebanon, potentially Jordan, and all these other countries. And if you think the mass migration to Europe was bad under Syria, wait till that spreads, and it's going to be untenable. So I think, not just because of the humanitarian reasons, I think for the stability of the world, it's important to act.
All right. See, I wanted to get your take because I thought that was an interesting take, because you read it so often, people saying, well, it's a lost cause, or it's this and it's that. And I know that you have followed this closely, and as I mentioned, an expertise in this area. Your take on it, to me, kind of trumped some of the other takes I was looking at there.
Well, thanks. Look, just quickly, I'll say on that, when we didn't intervene in Syria on the red line, people said, look, it's going to get worse if we do something. Well, it got worse when we didn't. And now it's like everybody thinks this is going to burn itself out. It's not. It's going to continue to grow and be a bigger problem in my mind. So that's a concern.
There's Congressman Adam Kinzinger taking time out of his busy day. We really appreciate that. Thank you very much for your time. And once again, high fives for your whole staff. They are awesome, and they deserve all the credit you gave them this morning.
I'll do it. I'll pass the high five and give you credit.
Congressman, thanks. We'll talk to you next time.
You bet.
There we go. Congressman Adam Kinzinger.